So you've just downloaded RUMlogNG from the Mac App Store. Where do you go from there? Well, in this video, I'm going to show you everything I've learned so far about this software and how to get it set up so you can have an amazingly awesome ham radio logging software on your Mac, this time on K8MRD Radio Stuff. So now that we have RUMlogNG installed, go ahead and open it up. You're going to be presented with a window that looks pretty much exactly like this. Not a lot going on, but you got a lot of fields and stuff. The very first thing we need to do is click on this logbook and create a new log. Call it whatever you want. Just save a new log and save it in whichever folder you want to save it in and hit save. Now, the next thing I want to tell you, in this menu bar up top, if we click where it says help, click on RUMlogNG help. This is where it's going to show all of the instructions, the manual, if you will, for this. Now, I will tell you, the manual does leave a bit to be desired. It's kind of incomplete in my experience, and hopefully this video will help augment the things that are missing in this manual. The first thing we need to do is go to RUMlogNG and click on Settings, and that's going to bring us to this Preferences page that the manual references all the time, but it always neglects to say click RUMlogNG Settings Preferences. So the very first thing we want to do, we can see we've got all these tabs up here. We want to make sure we click on the General tab first, and here's where we can enter in our call sign, our name, and our grid square. Now, the more accurate you are with the grid square, the better it's going to help locate exactly your position, and that'll be useful for this mapping feature that we'll see in a bit. Now over here, you can change statute miles to nautical miles, kilometers. You can change the twilight. You can change the date format, things like that. You can go from appearance to light or dark. I've not needed to use any of these user-defined logging fields, and I've not needed to auto-start any applications, but this does work with like WSJTX and things like that. Next, we want to get set up for rig control, so we're going to click this TX1 tab. Now, before we do this, we need to make sure we have the driver for our radio installed. Typically, it's going to be the Silicon Labs USB to UART driver. I will leave a link for that in the description below. And to check to make sure we have that driver installed, we can open up our Launchpad, and we're going to go to this Others folder, which is where it is in mine. We're going to go to System Information. Open that up, and on the left, we can see down here where it says USB. Click on that, and we can see that I have these two USB to UART bridge controllers, and note that it says IC 7610 because I'm using an ICOM 7610. So that's how we can know that we have the driver installed and it's working properly. Now, we want to make sure we have this Use CAT button on. We're going to select our manufacturer. In my case, it's ICOM. I am using a 7610, so we're going to select 7610. Interface, we're going to leave on serial, but these are the other options you have. For PTT use, I have do not use, and this XVTR offset is 0. I've not needed to change any of these transceiver-specific options. Just leave those alone. Now, here under CAT serial port, you can do one of two things. You can select which serial port you're using automatically, but I think that's kind of annoying. If we click this Auto Discovery button, that's going to automatically find which port your radio is on. Now, we do still need to tell what baud rate we're using, so make sure you go into the settings, look at what baud rate you're using, and make sure that this matches up, otherwise it won't work. Stop bits is 2, parity is none, all of this, nothing else in here you need to change. Now, if we have everything set up right, we can simply hit close, which also saves it. Notice this little window popped up, and it says that I have connected to USB 21330. So that means rig control is working. Now we can see we have a frequency up here, and if I change the VFO on the radio, you can see the radio on the bottom left of the screen, and you can also see here in the frequency that the frequency is changing. I'll change bands just like that. Everything is working wonderfully. It is awesome. Now, an interesting thing, if you want to change the frequencies for some reason on the software, you actually don't enter it in the frequency column. You enter it in the call sign. So let's say I want to go to 28450, then you hit return, and now the radio changes frequency. So that's just something to know in case you want to do that. So now hopefully your rig control should be set up. Let's go back into the settings and into this preferences tab, and I want to show you just a couple more tabs that we want to pay attention to. Now, one of the most important tabs for me is this Logbook of the World tab right here. I want to make sure that this is all set up so I can just send my logs up to Logbook of the World, and I can also download them from the Logbook of the World. Now, I'm going to assume you already have gone through the nightmare of setting up Logbook of the World through the ARRL website. You've downloaded TQSL. It is important to make sure that that TQSL program is in your applications folder, and I'll show you why in a minute. So we want to make sure we put in our username and password for Logbook of the World. If you've used a password for actually signing your logs in TQSL, here's where you'd put it. I don't use one of those. This last Logbook of the World QSL, you don't need to worry about. And for call signs, unless you're looking for specific call signs, you don't need to worry about that either. What we do want to worry about is how to select the path to TQSL applications, and we need to find a hidden folder for this .tqsl folder. So to select the path for TQSL applications, that's pretty easy. We select this, we go to our applications, and I am going to click Trusted QSL and TQSL. Done and done. Now selecting the path to the .tqsl folder is a little bit more difficult, and the instructions don't actually tell you how to do this because we need to find this hidden folder that Mac has decided to hide for us. So we're going to click this button. We're going to go up to whatever your main computer is, or you can just go to your home folder, either way. So I'll show you both ways. If you're on your main computer, go to, in my case, my computer's named my name. Now notice these are the only folders that are under there. If we hold Command, Shift, and period, look at all of these things that just popped up. Now we can see under Mike Dahlhofer, we have this .tqsl folder. We can click that and open it, and that is how we add that folder path to this. Now, if we want to do it the other way, if you have just your little home folder here in your favorites, again, I'll click Command, Shift, and period. Notice they all go away. This is what you're going to see by default. So by holding down Command, Shift, and period, now we're opening up all of these hidden files again, and there is that .tqsl folder. Not to be confused with the .tqsl application. Now, that's all you need to do to import and export contacts to and from Logbook of the World. Now that we have Logbook of the World set up, let's go to this QRGs tab. Here's where, if you need to make any adjustments for your country's specific band plans in the software, this is where you'd need to do it. So for example, when I first downloaded this, 40 meters was actually set at 7,200, and 2 meters was actually set at 146. Well, we have 7,300 and 148 here in the United States. So just go through this and make sure that it's actually for your band plan. If you need to make any changes, you simply just type in whatever changes you need to make. Next, this modes sat tab. I went through here and I just clicked a couple modes that I use, like FT8 was unchecked, so I checked that. And you can go through here, and this will just show more modes in the actual log. So for example, on SSB, you can leave SSB checked, but I went ahead and expanded this and hit LSB and USB. So just go through here and check in whatever applications you want, or modes. Next, we have this DX cluster tab. Now, by default, all of these under the spotter is from boxes are checked. I unchecked everything except North America because I'm in North America. I don't really want to see spots from people in Asia or Africa because I don't really care about those. I want to see spots from people who are actually in my region, so I might actually be able to hear people. Now, under the DX is from, I left all of these checked because I like chasing DX, and heck, if there's stations out there, I want to try and work them. Down here, you can select which bands. So you're basically going to filter which bands you're going to see in the spotting window in the DX cluster that we'll see in a minute. So I unchecked 160. I can't get on 160. And 2 meters and 70 centimeters I unchecked, but all these other ones I have. I also unchecked CW. I don't do CW, so it's pointless for me to see spots that are in CW, so I only selected data and phone. One thing you can do that the instructions are absolutely horrible about is you can also add other DX clusters aside from the default one that comes with RUMlogNG. Now, I have no clue how to do this because they don't tell you how, but somehow you can put the name and address and port and username and password. I mean, you can click add, but I have no idea how to do it. The cluster that comes with it seems to work just fine. I get POTUS spots, I get DX spots. I mean, anything that's on the spotting cluster shows up, so I haven't found a need, but it would be nice to know how to do this, and the instructions just don't tell you how, so I can't tell you how. Next, this databases. This is where, so when you type in someone's call sign, you hit the tab button, and the log will be able to populate the fields like the name and the location and all that stuff just by typing in the station's call sign. Now, I have a subscription to HamQTH. It's free. You go to hamqth.com, sign up, create a username and a password. That's all you need to do. So I use HamQTH. You just enter your username and password, and now when I type in someone's call sign, if they're in the HamQTH database, it will populate in the logbook. If you have a paid subscription to QRZ, here's where you would type that in, and it will pull the information from QRZ or QRZCQ.com or QRZ.ru or HamCall. So if you have any of these databases, you can type it in here, and that's where you can pull data from. Then hit close. That saves everything, and now we are back to this main logging window. But this is just where the fun begins. So now let's say you're just porting over to RUMlogNG and you want to bring a log from an old logging software into this. Well, so long as you export your log as an ADIF, you can import that into RUMlogNG with just a couple clicks of the mouse. So I'm going to show you how to do that now. So I'm going to use this log right here. This was actually from a Parks on the Air log, and then I'll switch to my main log and we'll see how everything works. But very, very easy. We're going to click on the application. We're going to go up to Logbook. We're going to import ADIF. And now I'm going to go to my desktop because that's where it is. And then we're going to select this log right here. You can see it's found 33 QSOs. Now here, this is one of the greatest things about this no dupes. So if you're importing, I actually use 3 different computers for logging. So I just upload everything into my main computer. I hit no dupes, and you can't screw it up. It's awesome. But if you want to use, if any of these other functions are important to you, go ahead and click that. I just leave it alone, hit import, and now it's just imported those 33 QSOs into the log, hit finish, and there they all are. Look at that. Now that we have RUMlogNG up and running, let's take a look around the actual logging software itself. So here we have our date and time. You can change the QSO end time or start time. Here's where we're going to enter in the call sign, our frequency. Here you can change what band or mode you're using. Here you can have the name QTH. You can fill in notes. You can enter in your power. Now this is kind of weird. There's no it doesn't actually track your transceiver's power. So I just type, I think I just typed in 100 watts here because you can pretty much do whatever you want here. And yeah, that's how that works. So you can manually type in, maybe you're using 50 watts, whatever, but you can also choose between high, mid, low, whatever. So let's just say we're using 100 watts. You can change colors, all kinds of information. This is going to show what country someone is in, whether you've worked them or submitted a log or confirmed a log on all these bands, and it'll show you like their weather and stuff. So like if we just put in my call sign here and we hit the tab button, nothing happens. But if we click this little drop down, now we get this window here. That's going to show where I am. It's going to show information about me. If I have a QRZ login, this would show my QRZ picture here. I don't really care about any of this. I just want to see a map. So let's say if we want to delete this, we actually hold down Command and hit W. There's no like delete QSO, which I think is kind of weird. You have to hold Command and W. So let's type in KC5HWB and hit Tab. And now we can see this just dropped a pin between me and him, brought up his name. It's Jason. He's in Texas. Here you can see the different bands we've worked on. So I've worked him on 40, 20, 17, and 2 meters. And here, if we just click on that, we can see all of the QSOs that I have with Jason. But let's say we didn't make a contact with him this time. We can just go ahead and hit Command and W, clear that all out, and the logging goes back to just its kind of default configuration there. So now let's look at how to actually upload and download our contacts to and from Logbook of the World. You can see here I've made a few contacts on 10 meters, and these W's mean that I've worked the stations, but I haven't actually submitted these to Logbook of the World. So with nothing selected down here, we can just upload the entire database, or we can highlight specific ones and upload them. But in this case, I want to upload my entire database, so we're going to simply click QSL, this Logbook of the World out for new QSOs. It's going to automatically open TQSL, and it says we've just uploaded 11 QSOs, done and done, that easy. Now we can see all of these that were W's now say S, which means we've submitted these to Logbook of the World. To download the QSLs from Logbook of the World, we're going to go back to QSL, we're going to hit Logbook of the World in, and this is going to connect to Logbook of the World. Now I have this read always, and you can see these are all contacts that have just now been imported that are like official QSLs from Logbook of the World, and all we have to do is hit close and it's done. Very, very easy. And any ones that have been confirmed, you'll see this little X here. Another thing we can do, maybe we didn't get the data from our log. Let's say I want to get KJ7 UQI's info. We can go up here to QSO, and we can hit Add QSO Data. Now, because I'm logged into hamqth.com, I can click that. If his info is in hamqth, it'll pull up here. In this case, it's not, but that's where you would go. Let's see if we can find some. Let's just highlight. Let's highlight a whole bunch of these things because I don't know what I've missed and what I haven't. So we'll just shift and click, and now all of these are highlighted. So I'll hit QSO, add QSO data, hamqth, and now we can see it's pulling up all these people's information. It might take a while for it to populate depending on how many contacts you've selected. In my case, I just selected a lot. So we'll wait for this to populate. Now, once it's finished, you can see that it's gathered all of this data. Some people just aren't in hamqth, which is fine. And you can select specific ones. If you want to just grab this guy, you could do that. You can grab them by groups. Now, if you hit overwrite existing data, it's going to put it in there. That's fine. But once you do that, you have to recycle that again. But if in this case, I'm just going to highlight everything. Doesn't matter. And I'll hit overwrite existing data, and that's going to change. So hopefully, like any fields that were blank that are in the database will now be in here. So that's how you can update their information. The same thing would apply for EQSL out and EQSL in. If you use that, you can import your DXCC credits, your IOTA, all of your logging stuff to wherever you log. You can do it all with this software. It's amazing. This online tab here, this will load any new users that are in any of the databases. So you can select just load all Logbook of the World users. You can load all of them if you use multiple of these. In my case, I'm only using Logbook of the World, so I'll hit that. And we can see here, I just did this the other day, so there were 0 added. But to show you, let's maybe hit load all above, and it'll load in. So here we got 37 entries from EQSL and a couple from Club Log. And that's how you can kind of sync all that stuff up. Other really cool things here, this window button will be your best friend. There are so many cool things in here. Let's go right here to DX Cluster Terminal. You want to open that up, and it should just kind of work for you because you're already logged in. You can go ahead and minimize this. We don't need that. Now, for me, this DX spotting window automatically popped up. If it doesn't, go back to Windows, and it's this DX spot window. That will open this up. So now we have our DX spotting cluster customized for how we set it up earlier. Let's go down to the window again. We can see, so now that I have my entire logbook entered into this or imported into this, we can see what DXCC entities have I worked. So we can scroll down this, and we can see literally every DXCC entity that I've worked or that you've worked on what bands, whether they're submitted, whether they're uploaded to Logbook of the World, whether they're confirmed, all the information you want. So you can see that. Maybe you want to see CQ zones, all the different bands, all the different zones. There they are. I mean, just so much information here. You into grid squares and satellites. There's your grid squares for bands and all that stuff. And there's a whole lot of them. So it's just packed with features. Maybe I want to look at just the United States. Have I worked all 50 states? Well, of course I have, but not on every band. So this is how you can see where you've worked. And you can, let's see, U.S. counties. It'll pull up everything. Here's all the counties that I've worked. Like, it's just crazy amount of information just from your log. And then you've got like German, Spanish, Italian, Japanese guns. I guess those are big guns. Here you can set up micro ham. Here's another cool thing though. Let's hit on gray line. Here's our gray line map. So I can just organize this however I want. Let's see, what else do we have? We have the solar terrestrial data. Here is all of that stuff that you'll see if like you go to qrz.com. It's like there's that same thing. You can also see solar activity monitor. Now, I find this to be quite inaccurate. So, like right now it says storm. If I look at my geochron, it says the geomagnetic field is quiet. Now, we did just come off of a solar storm a few days ago, but I don't really trust this, so I don't really use that anymore. But this is how I normally have my RUMlogNG set up. This is how I use it. So, because we have rig control now this Argentina station is on, I don't know, he's on 5313 on phone, but we can just double click that. It just changed my radio. It changed all the stuff up here. It's automatically populated as call sign, the frequency, the mode, everything. Now 5313 is the FT8 frequency, so I'm not sure, maybe someone spotted him wrong there, but like here's Switzerland on FT8. Double click that. Automatically changes on the radio. Now we see on the map where he is. There's his call sign, all that stuff. Again, if we don't work them, just hold Command and W. That clears that out, and we are ready to go. This software is so absolutely amazing. I am in love with it. And now hopefully you guys know how to use this software and will fall in love with it just like I have. If you find this kind of stuff useful, hit the subscribe button, hit the like, share it. If you want to support the channel, you can go to patreon.com/K8MRD radio stuff. You can also follow me on Twitter @K8MRD. Thanks so much for watching another episode of K8MRD radio stuff. 73, guys.